Hello, my name is Edwin Rutsch, and I'm the director of the Empathy Center located here in beautiful Santa Barbara, California. The center's mission is to build the empathy movement and to raise the level of empathy in society through education and community building initiatives.
And my name is Anita Nowak. I teach at McGill University, and I'm the author of Purposeful Empathy, a book that invites readers to turn up the volume of empathy in their lives.
And at the beginning of 2024, Anita and I co-hosted the Empathy Summit, brought to you by the Empathy Center, and more than 40 authors of books about empathy participated.
They shared what their book was about, why they were motivated to write it, and what they hope readers will take away. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you'll buy their book.
Our next speaker is Ian Roberts, and Ian helps create Olympic-level empathy on teams, and he is the author of Radical Empathy, Equity-Focused Testimonials, Trials, and Tools for School Leaders, and he's gifting one book. So the floor is yours, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. Good morning, everybody. I am currently serving as the superintendent of the largest school system in the state of Iowa, the Des Moines Public Schools. And I struggled a little bit, Edwin and team, as to whether or not I should honor this obligation this morning in light of what we have been dealing with over the last 3 days or so. In a school district that is 20 minutes from mine, my colleague, Carl Wicks, who's the superintendent, they had the first deadly school shooting of the year at that school. And then even on this morning, within the last hour, having heard of some additional updates, certainly it's tugging at my heartstrings. But I think I would not have missed this opportunity to be in this space with like-minded individuals who have recognized for a very long time how important and impactful leading, living, and serving from an empathetic orientation is. You know, when I wrote the book, Radical Empathy, Equity-Focused Testimonials, Trials, and Tools for School Leaders, it is grounded in a couple of very, very simple tenets. The first is I recognize that while I had an opportunity to do a lot of reading, I was privy to sort of a plethora of research with regards to empathy and compassion, I started to really see and experience a disconnect between the theoretical aspects of empathy and how practitioners were showing up, truly living out those competencies and tenets of empathy in their daily lives. You know, it is said that school leaders make an average of about 500 decisions every single day that affect the lives of those teachers, students, and parents with whom they interact. But in this pre-K-12 profession, what is also very well known is the fact that we tend to make a lot of our decisions more from a technical orientation, right? You will often hear school leaders or educators talking about making data-driven decisions. And oftentimes those decisions are grounded in what is or what are the quantitative aspects of what we're doing. And that includes looking at assessments and test scores and student attendance and student absences. And so many school leaders and teachers and other educators have made decisions that does not necessarily consider humanizing the students and teachers and leaders with whom we are interacting. Case in point, today there are approximately 51.5 million students who are enrolled in pre-K-12 education in this country. And what is interesting about that number is most recently we have seen a pivot of students who are considered minority students who are Black and brown now becoming majority students, with about 55% of those students becoming the majority of students who are enrolled in our school systems. But what we have not seen with these pivots are sort of strategies, structures, and even policies. We're now beginning to see a little bit of those that truly considers the lived experiences of all of these students. One additional data point that really inspired sort of the writing of this book is our students who are considered LGBTQIA+. We've looked at information recently, that is within the last 5 years, of that 51.5 million or so students. And based on a survey that was administered to students across those districts in the United States, about 20% of our students identified as LGBTQIA+. And what was heart-wrenching and also served as an inspiration for this sort of writing of this radical empathy book was the fact that when we looked at it even further, it is said that close to, I believe, 25% of those students said that they've either considered or attempted suicide in the last 2 years. Why? Because school systems and schools were not as inclusive as they should be. Yes, empathy truly saves lives. I've posited in this book that I wanted to have a nice marriage or a merger between what is happening in the theoretical space around the plethora of research around empathy and how we can inspire practitioners to truly show up and ground and anchor their work in empathy the same way we have done with every single leadership principle that we have inculcated, loved, and have so much pride in sharing. And so I've spent the last 8 years interviewing a number of practitioners, school teachers, principals, and school district leaders, particularly those who have led with high results and high impact from an empathetic orientation. And I also juxtapose that by having conversations with a number of them who did not initially embrace empathy as a way to teach and lead towards success. I've also shared in this book my own journey, my personal journey, as someone who did not become sort of 100% empathy focused until I had a life-changing experience with how I've interacted with students, teachers, and some of my peers. And I have to say, while I get on stages and stand in front of school systems across the country, raising my right hand and saying with pride, my name is Edwin Rutsch, and I'm an empathetic leader, I haven't always been this way. One of the life-changing experiences that it took from me, and I've shared some of this in this book, is the fact that my decisions were grounded in outcomes and data that did not consider the qualitative or empathetic or humanizing impact on students, but mostly about the quantitative data, test scores, assessments. And as a result of those decisions, I have caused a number of students to either drop out of schools. And there's one instance where one of my favorite students is now serving life in prison. And that is because during the earlier part of my career, I did not understand or was unwilling to embrace leading from an empathetic orientation. The testimonials and trials in this book from principals, teachers, and other leaders continue to serve an inspiration even for me as I go back to read some of them and share them in my daily walk and daily orientation. The motivation for the book is certainly around my own experiences, but also recognizing very quickly that once I decided to pivot towards becoming an empathetic leader, the impact that I have had, not only on students with whom I've interacted, but on communities, on parents who had given up in the pre-K-12 public education system, and certainly on leaders, is measurable, and certainly one that I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of. What I'm hoping that you, my esteemed colleagues, and fellow empathy revolutionaries will take away from my brief sharing on this morning are 3 things. 1, it's important for us to create these spaces, because while I woke up this morning and have struggled over the last several days with whether or not I should show up here because of what I've been addressing and dealing with as I lead a school system of 31,000 students, believing that I'm coming into a space this morning with a group of individuals who will receive and accept, and without saying a word, create a space that is safe for me, has been encouraging. The second is, I believe it's important that we take this, Edwin and team, this space in a very revolutionary, and I would venture to say radical way across the country, so we can certainly enlist millions and millions of people to recognize and understand the power of teaching, leading, and serving from an empathetic orientation. And the third takeaway that I want you, my esteemed colleagues, to leave with is certainly anchored in a little bit of a bias, and that is, in our pre-K-12 education system, we all posit that this is the place that really prepares future generations. We have to make sure that we are inundating our public and private school systems with how important empathy is to change the lives of all.
Thank you so much, Ian, for that moving presentation.